everyone, welcome to Wednesday Wednesdays. I am driving, so I'm not going to look at you very much, but there's no reason we can't talk about nutrition. Today we are going to talk a little bit, or I'm going to talk because you guys are just watching, a little bit about stress and how that actually affects your body biochemically and how that plays into what you are eating. I don't know how many of you have experienced like a super stressful situation where you felt your blood pressure go up, your heart raced, and as soon as it died down, you found yourself in the kitchen with whatever, a brownie, your hand in the Barkathan's bag, whatever your vice is. And really, it's not because you don't have willpower or because you don't know how to make good choices, but it's really a biochemical response in your body. And the beauty is you can learn to understand that response and then eat accordingly and overpower your subconscious and your biochemistry with your conscious brain. So our bodies are still designed to react to stress as if our stressors are wild animals. So as if we are out in the woods and we're getting chased by a mountain lion. So we see that mountain lion, we have this surge of cortisol and adrenaline, and also we get a surge of blood glucose, which is sugar, because we're going to need to run or climb a tree or whatever. We need to do something to get away from that. And so as soon as we get away from that wild beast, our blood sugar drops back down and our body says, whoa, I just used a lot of sugar and I was stressed. And so I want the simplest form of sugar to go back in. And so that's where we get those triggers for sugar in a stressful situation. The fascinating thing is today, not many of us are running from wild animals. Most of us are raising children or working in a stressful environment. And now, though our children can be wild animals, it's not quite the same. We're not running from them. And so our body, when it's had a stress reaction, craves sugar, which is often why we find ourselves with our hand in the Barkathan's bag or with a muffin or cupcake or something. It's twofold. It's because our chemistry actually is truly asking for sugar. And the second is because culturally we have set ourselves up to treat ourselves with sugar. You know, it's okay. You survived a stressful situation. You can have that sweet thing. And so my hope is after we talk today, you can begin to acknowledge and recognize the stressful situations and then also recognize what's going on inside. So like we talked about at the very beginning of the challenge, I really believe that our bodies are telling us something, and I believe that to some extent we can eat intuitively. However, I think you have to have some education to really eat intuitively, because if we're on the crazy cycle eating a ton of sugar, well, your body's going to say it wants sugar, and that's not the right answer. And so if you have the science behind the information and behind the physical response, then I do believe you can eat intuitively. So needless to say, there is a biochemical reason that you crave sugar under stress. And the trouble is, we are all stressed most of the time, whether it's trying to get out the door or it's trying to get the kids dressed in the morning, or it's trying to fit everything in what feels like a short 24 hours. We are all operating under a ton of stress. And so not only does that stress spike our sugar cravings, it also just puts us in the crazy cycle. And so just like we've talked about before, when we eat in balance, when we eat the protein, the fat, and the carbohydrate together, then you're countering that reaction. You're countering that stress reaction. What you may find is it takes a couple days, depending on how stressful your situation is, it can take a couple days for your blood sugar to balance back out after those surges of stress. And so So that's where it becomes highly important to be intentional with the combinations of food you're putting together. Are you getting all three? Are you getting a great protein source? Are you getting a really healthy fat? And then are you getting a whole foods carbohydrate, which can be vegetables, it can be the whole grains. And that combination is going to help counter the stress response in your body, because what happens is we get on that sugar cycle where we have the glucose release from stress, and then we eat sugar to counter that, and then we just want more sugar, and then the more sugar we have, sugar blocks our dopamine and serotonin transmitters, and both your dopamine and serotonin transmitters are incredibly important. So having enough serotonin in your body is going to help you stay less stressed, and it's going to help reduce anxiety. It's kind of our happy hormone. And then our dopamine, low dopamine levels are highly connected to addiction. And so again, sugar blocks both of those. And so if you are eating sugar as a stress response, you're continuing the crazy cycle. You're not getting enough serotonin and you're not getting enough dopamine. Therefore, you're more stressed, you're more anxious, and you're setting yourself up for more addiction. And that addiction can come in any form. It can be sugar, it can be alcohol, it can be drugs, it can be TV, it can be reading, it can be whatever you tend to gravitate to for addiction. So, needless to say, sometimes, now don't get me wrong, I highly believe that it is important that you enjoy your food or you're not going to stick with it. But I do think that there are times and there are seasons when we are in high stress that it is not always about enjoying your food, and at times it is just about making the logical, rational, conscious decision of putting the right foods together. And sometimes when you're in those super stressful situations, it doesn't, like, your meals and your snacks do not have to look like they're meant to be together. It can be a random beef patty with some olives and a couple slices of cantaloupe because that's what the place has that you're at, or whatever it is. Like, it doesn't have to look perfect, it doesn't have to come together, it doesn't even really have to be awesome. Like, it's your goal in those moments is truly just to rebalance that blood sugar. And like I said, sometimes depending on how stressful the situation is, or if it's continued stress, sometimes it's gonna take days. Now, the beauty is, now that you know this and you understand that, okay, this is a biochemical response in my body, and I really don't have to give in. I don't have to take that sugar like I want to take it. Then you're going to be better off. Sorry, merging over and the guy wouldn't let me in. But there's also, it goes twofold. So let's say you give in because it has been stressful and you do deserve that cookie or whatever it is. The beauty is you can recover now. So if you give in for a day or you give in for 2 days, you have not fallen off the wagon. Like, the beauty is you can make the next right choice. You can be the next, you can use your conscious mind to make the next right choice. You are never, you've never gone so far you can't recover, because there's always another meal. It doesn't matter what you eat, you're always going to have to eat again. And so I think for so long we have such an unhealthy relationship with food that it is the enemy, and it's really not. Food is actually, it's medicinal. It is what nourishes our body, and it is what gives us the power to rebalance our hormones so that we can function. The other thing that I want to say is, if you know a stressful situation is coming, maybe you're going to be with family that you don't get along with, or you've got a high stress situation at work, be prepared. take the balanced snacks that we talked about earlier in the challenge and be prepared. Don't find yourself without any options. And also when you eat out, like again in that season, it's so easy to want to indulge because your hormones are asking you to indulge. And so don't be afraid to go to a restaurant and ask them to make chicken with rice and veggies or whatever it is. Like most restaurants, if they're willing and they want to take care of their customers, they can make you anything that you want. So anyways, getting all fired up over here. The beauty is you can either always recover if you find yourself where you've given into the sugar cravings, or you can always consciously make that decision to counter them. And again, it doesn't have to look perfect and it doesn't have to be just right. Like sometimes it really is just that logical, conscious choice because you are working against your subconscious. You're working against evolution. You're working against the way that our bodies are designed for protection and for life and survival. And so I hope that gives you hope because it's not just willpower. It's not just, oh wow, I'm an emotional eater and I can't handle stress or whatever it is. It's not. Like you're truly getting messages subconsciously from your body's chemicals and hormones. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys have questions about this, feel free to ask, comment below. And I hope you find this helpful. I know I'm on a sugar kick because sugar is so damaging to our bodies. But I also want you guys to feel like you have power over sugar because it is so addicting. They've done studies with mice and they've given some mice cocaine and they've given some mice sugar. And in those studies, the mice that are given sugar always go back to the sugar. And the mice that were given cocaine and then offered sugar and then offered both went to the sugar over cocaine. So, I mean, we were talking about a highly addictive substance. So, just want you to be encouraged that you're not alone and that you're dealing with hormones and chemicals and it's not just willpower. And the beauty is now you have that knowledge. You have that foundation that you can make better choices and not just give in to those subconscious feelings. So anyways, I hope you guys have a great day and please, if you have questions, let me know.